Tell me where you are. What do you see?
I'm at the docks.
You're
I I'm at the docks in Wilmington.
okay.
I recognize this.
You do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, it's cold. Um, maybe early spring. There are no leaves in the trees.
Mm-hmm.
I recognize there are ships with big sails, and it smells awful.
What does it smell like?
Like piss and dirt and feces, dead
Okay.
fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the sense that I am, it doesn't feel like a waste of time to be there. It's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy standing there and breathing in the wind as it comes off the river.
Mm-hmm. How many boats do you see?
I see there's one that just came into port, and it has mostly barrels coming off of it and boxes, and the occasional person. There are men in red coats around. They're watching the shipments. There are smaller boats farther out, fishing boats.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be another ship with sails farther down. It might have a anchor to it, but it's
Okay.
not yet in port. I don't know if it had already come in or if it was going to come in later. It's loud. There are voices everywhere, mostly
Mm-hmm.
men yelling at each other to get things done, do things faster. But it doesn't bother me. It's normal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that my mother doesn't notice that I've gotten away.
Hmm. Are you a child?
No, I'm young, but I don't feel like a child.
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm 14 or 15.
Okay.
And I know I had come down with her for market, buying something for the house, fish maybe. She wanted me to follow her, and I wanted to stand over the river.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go back to her when I need to. I just wanted a moment. Her, she feels oppressive, like
She
a
does.
cloud. I feel like I'm never enough with her. Like there's always something I could have done better. I could have been quieter. I could have been more quiet. It keeps coming down to quiet and do what you are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Describe your mother to me.
She has a hard face. Uh, it's square, small features, but a square jaw, smaller nose, small eyes that are cold. I don't feel love from her,
You don't.
and I'm not looking for it. I think I did at one point, but I'm not. Her hair, it's not that it's tied on her head, it's that it feels like it is tight.
Mm-hmm.
It's styled to not be so tight, but it's almost as if that pulled back feeling is preferred.
Okay.
She has dark hair, but it looks like it's starting to go gray. She has lines on her face, but she's not that old.
Mm-hmm.
She is not very tall, a little taller than me, and she looks like she eats well. She has round features.
She does.
I look down at myself. I'm not eating well.
So tell me about you.
When I look at myself and I look at other people around me, I feel very small.
Mm-hmm. Are you male or female?
I'm female.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing a dress. It's blue.
Okay.
Um, it actually looks nice, and it's such a contrast from what she's wearing. Like she's wearing like a almost like a coal color in dress.
Mm-hmm.
Like she doesn't want to be noticed, but she wanted me to be noticed because I'm I have this dress.
Okay.
It's it doesn't seem like a dress I should be wearing down there.
Hmm.
I'm a little confused as to wearing it in the first place because
Yes.
it's
Why do
so
you?
dirty.
Oh, okay. Why do you think she wants you to be noticed? What's her objective?
I'm pretty,
Mm-hmm.
and well, she wants to marry me off. That's clear.
Okay.
So she wants me to be noticed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why she's the one. She has the basket. She's picking up the things. I might carry it on the way back, but I'm simply to be seen.
Okay.
I
What else?
I don't want to go home. There's no warmth there. There's something about standing out in front of the river and seeing boats moving in and out, and the wind, and so much movement, and not having their eyes on me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like freedom. But there's a sense of not today. Freedom is not for today, I guess.
Okay. So you mentioned that you recognize this location, the ports.
I'm in Wilmington.
Okay. Are you ready to explore where you live?
Yeah.
All right. So while you do that, we're going to move to where it is that you sleep, where you eat, what you call home, while a part of you also recognizes the location of where this home is. Let's move there now. 3, 2, and one. Just be there now. You're outside.
The house is 2 stories. It's not large, but it's very comfortable in comparison to what many likely have. We're at a higher elevation, a bit farther out of town.
Okay.
It's a brown house, wooden. Uh, it almost seems like the second story goes out a little bit farther than the first. It's it's a strong house, but it's an ugly house.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
um, there's a bit of field around it and trees nearby. I can still feel the wind from the river, but I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Trees are blocking it. I think at one point there were crops, but there aren't right now. It's almost, there's like a sense that there used to be people around, but now there aren't. It's just cold.
Mm-hmm.
There's a there's like a shack, um, that's just like off to the right. Like I'm on a foot trail that leads up to the house,
Mm-hmm.
and people used to live there. I think they were enslaved, but it may have been my family, but they were they were released. They were told to go. There's uh, it's there's a secret. There's secrets in this house. That shack is. I never go in there. There are things in there that I know are dangerous. Sometimes they're people. It's not those who are enslaved. It's people who go in and out. They have they don't have good intentions about them. They they always seem like they're thinking of something else. That I think they're up to no good, and I never go out there to see if they're there or not. I stay away from it.
Mm-hmm.
The house, though, there's a safer feeling there, even though it's cold. Those men aren't allowed inside. I see my room.
Tell me about it.
It's small. There's a small bed of it's hay. It's hay that's been bundled in a fabric with a sheet, and there's this multicolored quilt, and I love that quilt.
You do.
Yeah, I get the feeling like it was from my grandmother. And
Mm-hmm.
there have been nights that I've run up to my room and sat on my bed and pulled my quilt around me, and I just lit a candle and I looked out the window onto the stars, and I prayed that whatever was happening downstairs wouldn't come upstairs, that I would be left alone. There's a there's kind of like a closet, but it juts out, where my things are. There's a basin to wash my face. There's a pot for chamber pot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a lock on my door, but I don't know if it's there or not, or if I'm just imagining it.
Is this lock on the outside or the inside?
It's on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a wish. A wish that it was there. There's a latch that it looks iron. It just hooks into the side of the door frame, and you pull it down in order to open it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no lock there. I wanted there to be a lock there.
All right, you mentioned something going on downstairs. Are you ready to explore that?
Yeah.
Okay, and remember, no discomfort. Remember that this is not happening to you, and you can observe it. Like an observer, you could float above it. So let's go to an important day where something important is happening downstairs that explains why you're not happy. Just be there now.
There is yelling. My father is yelling.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of his men. He's actually inside the house down in the main room. It's where we would have food. He would also conduct business there. The man is in shadows. He's yelling at it's Rupert. He's yelling at Rupert because
He's,
it's because he was stationed there. My mother had let him in the house, and I heard it from upstairs, and it was evening time. And so she let him in to speak to my father. And he has a letter from his superior saying that he's assigned to stay there for a quarter. And I'm watching from the stairs, and I'm in shadow, and I'm close to the stairs because I know that if my dad were to see me down there, I feel like I'd get whipped for it. But I'm listening, and I look around the side, and there's this sickly red coat. His eyes, he has bags under his eyes, and his cheeks are hollowed out, and he's hardly standing. He's bouncing over a chair, and the letter is out on the table, and it's crumbled up. I can't tell if it had been curled or if it had been folded. It had been crumbled up because father had thrown it. The man in the corner has stepped forward. I don't like his intent. He's dirty, and he's waiting for my father to tell him what to do.
mm-hmm.
I sense he has a knife on him because his hand keeps going to, it's under his jacket to the back of his pants. He doesn't pull it out. He's just looking between Rupert and my father. My father waves a hand, and he backs down, and Rupert's told he can sleep in another room that's downstairs. There's a fireplace in there. It's seems like for storage.
Okay.
He knew I was there. My father knew I was in the staircase. Apparently, I was
Mhm.
not good at hiding because he immediately looks over to me and he points at me and he says, prepare some straw on a mat on the floor. That's what he gets until I speak to his superior.
Okay.
I'm not fully dressed. I
Okay.
just have a shawl, but I do it.
Hmm. How does Rupert know your parents? What is the connection here?
He doesn't.
Okay.
Not then.
Did he just need a place to stay, a place to rest?
It was it was an assignment. Um, I feel like there were barracks, but they were full, and so he came in to town, and he needed a place to stay, and so his superior assigned him a home, uh, a home that his superior had seen and understood to have enough room to board another soldier. Uh, it seems like that had not become so common a practice in Wilmington. And that's why my father was so mad that he had been chosen to put up a soldier, especially one who was so sickly looking. It was almost as if they didn't want him in the barracks because they were worried that he would make others sick. And so they put him with my father.
Hmm.
I also sense that they knew my father was up to something and they wanted someone in the house, but to put someone who was sick that was there and unassuming would make it appear as if it weren't purposeful.
Okay. Is there anything else that's important in this scene before we move ahead?
I don't get whipped that night.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know I was doing something that he would have harmed me for in any other night, but I prepare the bedding and I go up to my room and I'm not touched.
Mhm.
And I'm afraid that night, I'm afraid that he still might change his mind, but he doesn't.
Mhm.
And I wake up the next day and that's it.
All right. I'd like
I
to, yes,
I felt safe. Strangely, after that night, I felt safer
when Rupert was in the home.
because I saw it as a way to not. I thought that if he was in the house based off of what happened that first time, that I wouldn't be harmed anymore. And so after that night, I felt safer.
Mhm. Okay. I'd like to go to a particular day where you were sharing a meal with your mother and your father. Let's just move to a day where you're all sitting together, you and your family. 3, 2, and 1. Just be there now. Do you see your father?
Yes.
All right. I'd like for you to connect with your father, connect with his energy. Look through his eyes, but beyond his eyes. Do you recognize him as someone in your current life?
It's George.
Okay. Okay, you're doing very well. Just observing, just observing. Just remember that these are all lessons, family lessons. Right now, we're just observing. Now, connect with your mother, with her energy. Look at her eyes, beyond her eyes. Do you recognize your mother as someone in your current life? Just listen for the answer.
It's my friend Grace.
Mhm.
And that makes me sad.
Mhm.
I'm trying not to compare the two. Uh,
Yes.
Both of them have such cold eyes.
Mhm. Is there anything else in this particular scene that you pick up before I move you to another scene? Anything else you notice?
There's another man at the table. He's older, not as old as my father, but older than me. He's dressed well, but I don't like how he looks at me. And father is, he's pointing at me, and I'm wearing a nice dress, and I look like I would be going out to a ball, and I'm not. And it's strange because we're just at home and eating.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
father's trying to, he's making things up about me, things that would make me appear like an ideal wife.
Mm-hmm.
He's lying. I want to tell the man that he's lying, that I'm not good at the things he says I'm good at, that I don't I don't want to marry him, and the subject hasn't come up directly, but I know that's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a horse. I feel like a horse that's been scrubbed down and brushed out and put out to market. And the father is talking about business, and he's talking about business and how the two of them together would be so much stronger. They would be able to get more done because this man lives farther away, and I don't want to live farther away. I don't want to. He lives farther inland near a marsh,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to live there. I don't like the marshland. I don't like how it gets sticky in the summer and there's less wind. And I don't like any man that my father would like. And my mother is quiet. She doesn't say anything. And she seems entirely fine with all of it. I just want to go back up to my room.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and just leave this scene now and let's move ahead to an important event. We're moving ahead in time to an important event. 3, 2, 1. You are there now.
He's asking if I want to run. Rupert, we're under a tree. We're looking out over calm waters like a lake. I don't know where there would be a lake. But he's asking if I want to go. He's asking, he's holding my hand.
He is.
Yeah, he's saying we can go, we can go. He's saying that he's saying he got his ticket over and he's here and we can go and he can desert and we can run. We can run. And I don't feel well. I feel sick. I feel sick. Like I want to throw up. I
How do you
am,
feel about him?
I feel safe
You do.
and I'm conflicted because I feel safe with him and I don't want to go. I'm I'm pregnant. I'm sick because I'm
Okay.
pregnant. I'm I'm not showing, but I know it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying we can go, but I don't think I can go because I'm already sick. I feel weak.
Mm-hmm.
He's asking if I've eaten. I haven't eaten. He's he's pulling at my hand. He's saying, "Oh, we can go. We can go to the market, and I'll get you bread, and you'll eat, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll feel stronger if you've eaten something, and we can go." he's saying he has some money. He's saying he has money, and he'll he'll get us a carriage. He'll do. He knows someone. He knows someone that could drive us at night, at least out of the
Okay.
city.
Hmm.
And I get sick.
You do. Okay.
I'm Yep, I'm on my hands and knees up against a tree, and I'm getting sick, and it's a lot. And uh, yeah, I'm trying to pull up my dress because
Hmm.
I'm on my knees, and I'm trying not to get bile on my dress because I'm on a hill,
Okay.
and he's, he has his hand on my back,
Hmm.
and he's just moving it up and down.
Okay.
He's saying he's sorry. He's saying it's what he wanted, but he's sorry that it happened with us where we were. He's asking if anybody else knows. Tell him I'm not sure. I'm worried my mom knows. I'm worried that she just knows. She just knows things.
Okay. Just to be clear, Rupert is the father?
Yes.
Hmm. How did that happen? When did that begin? This romance.
It began with looks.
Okay.
I'm seeing it's like a montage of looks. Just him looking up, me looking over, both of
Hmm.
us looking away. And then I and I was out on the street, and I just looked over, and he was looking at me, and I look away. And there there was a night I was cold, and so I was down by the fire. I used to go to where he was sleeping before he was quartered there because I knew I wouldn't be in the way. And it was like a fireplace that opened up on both sides. And I knew I could hide away in there. And there was a night that I was cold. And so I went down there, and I knew he wasn't back yet. So I knew I could be there by the fire. And I think he came back early, and he startled me.
Hmm.
He comes around, and it looks like at that point he has a cot. And I'm sitting on the floor, on the far side. And he comes in, and he he has this, maybe that's how he carries his rifle. It's something that he throws over his shoulder, and he throws it off and throws it at the cot. And he's tired. And I try to hide in the shadows on the other side of the room.
Hmm.
And I'm curled up, and he he starts to take off his jacket, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to reveal myself because that would be so awkward.
Yes.
Um, but I I slip, like my foot slips, And he hears me and he looks over and he sees me all curled up on the far side and sitting on the floor. And he's asking what I'm doing.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
I tell him I wanted to be warm and alone. And he says, well, you're not alone. I'm here.
Mhm.
And I said, well, perhaps you can pretend that I'm not here and then I can still be alone, but maybe keep your jacket on. And he says, that won't do. I can't have you in here and act like I don't see you.
Oh,
And so I stand and we just sort of stare at each other for a little bit.
mhm.
And it's awkward. And he says, one of us, he says, we don't speak very much. And I said, no. And he says, if you would permit me, I would like to speak with you more. And I don't say anything. I just nod.
Okay.
I feel really hot, like in my cheeks. Um,
Mhm.
I'm, yes, because I am not fully, I've got my night gown on and
Mhm.
two shawls because I'm cold and I've got like a bonnet on.
Yes.
So, yeah, he says that if I need to hide there again, I can. And he won't tell anyone. And he's very good at keeping secrets.
Okay.
He says it kindly. There's a kindness. It's so gentle. And I'm so unfamiliar with that in the house.
Mhm.
But that night we didn't say very much. We just sort of sat with each other from across the room.
Very good. Okay. All right. So let's move ahead to that day that you were sick. He's asking to run away with you. Tell me what happens next. What do you decide?
All I can think of is my father. I think of the connections he has, how he knows people everywhere.
Mhm.
People who have no morals. They're profiting off of stealing, both sides. I'm so afraid of him. And I keep saying that. I'm crying. I'm not sick anymore. We're on the other side of the tree and we're both on the ground and Rupert's holding me and he's telling me it'll be all right, but I know it won't. So I don't leave with him. We decide to wait a little while longer to know for sure.
Okay. What happens next?
Hmm. I feel I want to move forward. I don't know if there's much more to see that day.
Okay, let's move ahead. Moving ahead to another important day where something very important is happening. 3, 2, and 1. Just be there now. You are there.
I'm yelling at my father. I'm yelling at him.
Okay.
I've never yelled at him before. I'm telling him. I'm telling him what I want. I'm telling him that I don't want to be a part of his life. I occasionally am holding my stomach, but I'm not showing. I don't tell him,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm telling him I'd rather be on the streets than stay another night in his house. I will not be his piece of cattle anymore. I will not be sold off. I will not repeat my mother's life. I will not become cold like her and quiet and immoral. And he slaps me. I'm on the floor. I can feel the cold floorboards. And he kicks me in the stomach. I'm I'm laying there. He said something, some curse. I can't. I don't know what he said. And he walks away. Damned if you'll leave me. And I'm just cold. But I'm hurt, but I'm smiling. I felt strong. And I decided it was time. I decided it was time to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I had plans to see Rupert later that night. We would meet after he was finished with what he needed to do. His work being a sentry, though at that point he was digging something.
Okay.
We had plans to go, but I wouldn't meet him. I decided he would understand that I wasn't going to meet him, and I had to get better. And I, as soon as I could get up, I stumbled over, and there's bread sitting out on the table, and I take a big chunk off. It's a fresh loaf, and my mother's gonna hate it later to find that big piece gone. I just tear it off and I eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to myself I'm gonna get better. I swear to myself that I'm gonna eat. I know what I want, and I was gonna get it. And so I take the bread and there's some ale and I have a little bit. Um, and I go upstairs and I go to sleep. I had a nightmare.
You did.
I was like, for lack of a better word, it was like demon-like creatures, long,
Mm.
they long arms and
Mm-hmm.
cruel faces and sharp talons, and they were pulling Rupert away from me. And I was holding out my hand. I was holding out my hand, but they kept pulling, and they kept pulling, and they kept pulling, and then he was gone, and I was awake, and the sun had come up. And I know I had chores to do, but I didn't want to do them.
Okay.
I knew he would be keeping watch, and so I put on a dress and I ran into town. I was going to meet him there. I was going to tell him where I had been. And he wasn't there. Uh, and I can't go ask anyone. I want to ask someone, anyone around. There are other soldiers. There are men that would know. I know they would have seen him. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to ask where he is. Because he wasn't staying with us then.
Okay.
But I don't think he would approve of me asking, because then it would bring attention to us, and we didn't want to do that. And so I go home and I do my chores, and everything is exactly the same. I don't even get sick that day. It's like nothing had changed. I go that night. I go to the place where we would meet. It was a barn. It was for storage primarily,
Mm-hmm.
barley, and he wasn't there. And I waited. I waited all night. I didn't sleep. I go home. I do my chores. Nothing happens. And I go where he was meant to be stationed during the day, and he's not there. I go to where he said he had been reassigned to sleep, and I never see him enter or exit. And it seems like everything else is exactly the same. Like nothing has changed except for he's not there. And it's like this.
How does that make you feel?
It feels like I'm lost. It feels like I've made something up, like I've made him up. But I know I couldn't have, because I'm carrying his child. So, and I feel crazy. No one ever talks about him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like he was replaced. No one ever says a thing. And my stomach's getting bigger. And I'm not eating. And I stop doing my chores. My mother hitting me doesn't make me get up from bed. My father won't look at me anymore. He says cruel things about me. It's like he knows. So I feel like a sick joy because I know Rupert was real because he knows. He knows. I'm certain he knows. He knows something, but all he does is glare at me and say cruel things. And the men come and go from the house. It's like nothing has changed. But I'm getting thinner. When I see my reflection, I look like a ghost. He doesn't want to be around me anymore. My father.
Mm-hmm.
He says I'm a disgrace and I look like a disgrace. He doesn't, he says I should care more about myself. I should care more about him. But I don't.
How far along is this pregnancy?
I'm starting to show.
Mm-hmm.
My clothes are getting a little tight.
Yes.
He's aware where my mother has told him. My mother knows.
Your mother
She
knows.
knows. She knows.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting at the table, and for all the times he hasn't looked at me, he's looking at me now. And I want to feel small, but I don't. I don't feel small because I know I'm carrying someone important. But I don't feel small.
Mm-hmm.
He says he's saying if he could rip it from me, he would. He's saying I've ruined everything. I've ruined his plans. He's saying I'm going to live with my mother's mother. I don't think I've been to her place very much.
Okay.
I It's hard to see it.
All right, let's move ahead now. Let's move ahead to the next important thing that happens in this story. Are you forced to leave?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Father is he's trying. He thinks he has found a man to marry me. I don't know this man. I know of him.
Mm-hmm.
He knows I'm with child. but I haven't met him. He's
Okay.
going to meet me once I reach my grandmother's house. He'll meet me there. And I am asking about Rupert, and I want to yell, but it's coming out clearly, just almost monotone. Keep asking where he is. And my father says I'll never have to worry about him again. He's far away, far away. I don't, I feel like I know what that means, but I don't know what happened.
Hmm. What do you think happened?
He's dead. I know he's dead. And I'm not sure how it was done, and I don't know which man did it, because I know my father wouldn't do it himself.
Hmm.
I don't care. There's so many men going in and out. They're all the same to me.
Hmm.
It was like that dream. And being taken farther away and not knowing. I'm weak. I want to react, and I can't feel. I don't feel anything. I want to be angry. I want to scream. I want to cry. I don't feel anything. It's like I feel the baby and I don't feel myself.
All
I
right.
don't. I,
Let's go ahead and move to your destination. You mentioned there was an arranged marriage that was coming ahead. Let's go to that time so we can explore this. You're moving ahead now. 3, 2, and 1. Be there now.
my grandmother lives on a bog, and I hate it.
Mhm.
She lives right next to one in a little house. We're inside, and the wedding is happening inside the house. And she's there.
Mhm.
There's an enslaved girl that takes care of her. She doesn't seem like she's right in the mind.
Okay.
And there's a man there that I know him, but
You've seen him before?
he works in the storehouses. His
Mhm.
father owns a storehouse down by the river.
Mhm.
He's not a bad man. He's
Okay.
not that old. If anything, he seems kind of foolish.
Mm-hmm.
We're in there. There's a priest. They called the priest to the house.
They did.
I find all of this annoying because my grandmother doesn't want to go and no one wants to be seen and it's not going to be announced. And I still feel empty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm I'm even smaller. I'm I'm not carrying the baby anymore.
What happened?
It was a girl. The the travel was rough. There were storms. My
Mm-hmm.
father didn't care and he put me on the carriage anyway. It was like the first cold of the season and I didn't have a warm cloak. He said the cloak was expensive and he preferred to keep it. So I had a shawl and it was cold and the road was bumpy. The journey was long and I get to my grandmother's house and she doesn't remember who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And the slave, she's kind. She takes me in and she puts an arm around my shoulders and she assists me through the door. Takes me takes me to I don't I feel like I'm sharing a bed with my grandmother because it's a small home.
Okay.
But within a week, I I have the baby, and I didn't even know what was happening. I didn't know I was having it. It was too early. I just thought something was wrong, and it there was the same woman who found me. She came in and she cleaned me up, and she pulled the baby up, and it was quiet and pale and purple. And she asked me if I wanted to see the baby. I said yes. And it was so small. I could fit the baby in my two hands. So small, cold, and quiet. The woman said that she would bury it. She would bury her, and she said that I should give her a name. And names, they come and they go, and I said nothing. She asked me if I wanted to come outside and we could choose a place, maybe bury her next to my grandfather. There's, he was out, he was buried nearby. And I just stared at her. I just stared. It's like I couldn't speak. And so she said, "All right, well, if it's all right with you, I'm gonna take this baby and I'll put her somewhere nice and I'll let you know. I'll let you know where I put her.
Did you
You
name
can
her?
pray for her. I It took me a while to name her.
Hmm.
I laid in bed for a long time. I thought about what Rupert might want. Thought about what sounded nice. Isabella or Isabel. I always thought that was pretty.
Hmm. Is there
I,
anything
was,
else? Anything
I
else
remember
on this
sitting
day?
out by her.
Hmm.
Not that day, but I remember days forward, just sitting by her,
Hmm.
by her gravesite. I would pick wildflowers, and I would tell her about her father, and I would tell her I was sorry that I wasn't able to give her what she needed. My mind is skipping around. I'm thinking about the marriage.
Hmm.
He didn't touch me. I really appreciated that.
Okay.
He didn't he didn't lay with me. He didn't consummate. And I thought that was kind. But there wasn't much of me left. I feel like I'm dying.
Let's go there. Let's go to there to another important day. Tell me what you see. What's happening?
I'm on the bed. I'm laying down, looking up, and my grandmother is sleeping next to me on her side. She's turned away. And I'm thinking about which one of us will go first.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about how I hope that since she can't remember who I am, that she won't remember when I go. And I hope that I go soon. I'm still with her. Business. My The man that I married, he had
Mhm.
business.
Okay. So you had to stay with her.
Yes.
Mhm.
I
What
don't
happens?
retrospectively, I don't know if he was so interested in women. And that was fine.
I see. Okay. Mhm.
I I recognize him, someone that I know. It's Josh.
Okay. Mhm.
Um, the friendly face.
Mhm.
It's still I don't feel whole. I just feel cold. It's hard to move.
Mhm.
There's this blanket over me. My grandmother's always cold, and so we always have blankets over us, and I'm watching a spider build a web in the corner, and I'm watching it, and my vision's getting darker, and I don't see it complete the web. It's just dark.
Okay. All right. So just know that you have just physically died in this lifetime that we've been exploring. And as you move out of your body, you're going to be able to continue to talk to me and answer my questions because you're now in touch with your inner true self. Feel your mind expanding into the highest levels of your being. Looking down at your body, you may feel some brief sadness, but your soul has been through this experience before, and now you're ready to return home, your real home. You could just float away, leaving all physical discomfort behind. And as you move up, up, you are now fully in a soul state, directly connected to the highest consciousness of your mind, which is like a vast computer holding all the stored knowledge of your entire